living in the vibrant and ever-bustling suburbs of Canada. I always considered my independence to be my most prized possession. My name is Aisha, a 28-year-old marketing executive striving to carve out a meaningful career in a rapidly growing company. Life had its imperfections, sure, but every inch of it was mine. A testament to my resilience and determination. When I paused to reflect on my journey, I couldn't help but feel a quiet sense of pride for how far I had come. My daily routine was a blend of simplicity and contentment. Mornings started with the rich aroma of strong coffee and hastily prepared breakfast before I dashed to the office. Evenings, however, were my sanctuary, a time to unwind with the comforting embrace of a good book or the escapism of my favorite TV shows. Weekends were a tranquil affair, often spent strolling through the nearby park, relishing the fresh air and golden sunlight, or catching up on the ever-persistent household chores. Excitement was a luxury I rarely sought. Instead, I reveled in the calm and control I had meticulously built around me. Predictability, to me, was a rare and cherished treasure. My home was an extension of this philosophy. I lived in a modest yet charming apartment within a quaint complex. It wasn't the most luxurious place, but it had everything I needed to feel content. My one-bedroom sanctuary boasted large windows that welcomed the morning sunlight, bathing the room in a golden glow. The neighbors were pleasant and polite, exchanging friendly smiles and casual greetings in the hallways. We kept our interactions superficial, which suited me just fine. I valued my space and privacy, and the thought of prying into or sharing intimate details of my life felt unnecessary. This predictable rhythm offered a sense of safety and security, a feeling I clung to with quiet determination. Life, however, has an uncanny way of defying plans and appending even the most carefully constructed worlds. My little bubble of tranquility was no exception. The catalyst for this disruption came in the form of my neighbor, Jid, living directly across from me. Jid was the kind of person you couldn't help but notice, polite and effortlessly charming. He exuded a quiet confidence that often drew people to him. Our interactions were fleeting, a quick exchange of pleasantries in the communal parking lot or brief conversations on the staircase. To me, he was just another neighbor with an easy smile. Nothing more, nothing less. Little did I know, his presence would soon ripple through my life in ways I could never have anticipated. The turning point came one seemingly ordinary Saturday morning. I had stepped out to take the trash when I bumped into Jid. He was shirtless, holding a toolbox, likely on his way to fix something in his apartment. "Good morning, Aisha," he greeted, flashing a smile that seemed to light up even the dimmest corners of the hallway. "Morning," I replied, aiming to keep the interaction as brief as possible. "Looks like someone's having a lazy Saturday," he teased, gesturing playfully to my oversized pajamas. I let out an awkward laugh, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. Guilty as charged. "What about you?" "Oh, just fixing a leaking tap," he said, raising his toolbox as if to emphasize the point. "By the way, if you ever need help with anything around your apartment, just let me know." "Thanks. I'll keep that in mind," I responded casually, not giving the encounter much thought. But that seemingly ordinary conversation marked the beginning of something far from ordinary. In the weeks that followed, Jid's presence became increasingly noticeable. He would knock on my door unexpectedly, offering little gestures of kindness, a slice of cake he'd baked, an invitation to watch a football match at his place, or just a casual chat about work and life. First, I appreciated his friendliness. Genuine kindness was rare, and his gestures felt refreshing. But as his compliments grew more personal and frequent, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to his actions. One evening, as we stood on the balcony watching the sunset, Jid's words caught me off guard. "You know, you're not like other women I've met," he said, his voice tinged with sincerity. "There's something special about you." I chuckled nervously, unsure of how to respond. "That's a flattering thing to say, Jid. Thanks." He turned to look at me, his smile softer and more genuine than I'd ever seen. "I mean it, Aisha. You have this energy, this aura that's impossible to ignore." I quickly changed the subject, but his words lingered long after I returned to my apartment. That rainy evening, as I curled up on the couch watching TV, a knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. When I opened it, Jid stood there, holding an umbrella and a brown paper bag. "Sorry to bother you," he said, his tone unusually hesitant. "I made too much jollof rice and thought you might want some." I invited him in, and we sat at the dining table, sharing the meal in easy conversation. But as the evening wore on, the atmosphere shifted. Jid grew quiet, his usual confidence replaced with a nervous energy. "Aisha," he began, his voice softer than usual, "there's something I need to tell you." I looked up, unsure of what to expect. "I've been trying to fight this feeling, but I can't anymore," he admitted, his eyes locking with mine. "I like you. A lot. I think about you all the time. Honestly, I think I might even love you." My heart raced, a mix of surprise and unease washing over me. I hadn't seen this coming, though in hindsight, perhaps I should have. "Jid," I started, struggling to find the right words. "I know it's sudden," he interrupted, "and I don't expect an answer right away. I just couldn't keep it to myself anymore." I nodded slowly, my thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. "I appreciate your honesty," I managed to say. "Take your time," he replied, his smile tinged with vulnerability. "I just needed you to know." After he left, I sat alone in my apartment, grappling with a wave of conflicting feelings. Jid was undeniably kind, funny, and attractive, but I wasn't sure if I felt the same way. Over the next few days, his confession lingered in my mind, forcing me to reevaluate not just him, but also my own guarded approach to relationships. Jid, sensing my hesitation, gave me space. His restraint only deepened my respect for him, yet his words had ignited a possibility I hadn't considered before. One Friday evening, Jid knocked on my door again, his demeanor more uncertain than usual. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded, stepping aside to let him in. He sat on the edge of the couch, his hands fidgeting slightly. "I didn't mean to make things uncomfortable," he began, his tone earnest. "If you don't feel the same way, I'll respect that. I just value your friendship too much to lose it over this." His words were a testament to his character, and in that moment, I realized the depth of his sincerity. For the first time, I allowed myself to wonder, could I take the leap? Could I risk the calm and control I cherished for the chance at something more? Life had a way of surprising me, after all, and perhaps, just this once, I was ready to embrace the unexpected. His vulnerability caught me completely off guard. For the first time since I met him, I saw a side of Jid that wasn't all confidence, charm, and witty remarks. He seemed stripped of his usual armor, exposing a quiet uncertainty that made my heart soften unexpectedly. It was as if, in that moment, the polished facade he always wore had crumbled, revealing something raw and deeply human. "Jay," I began hesitantly, my voice trembling slightly. "You didn't make things uncomfortable. I wasn't expecting it. That's all. But I've been thinking a lot about what you said." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes searching mine, filled with a hope so palpable it made my chest tighten. "And?" he prompted, the single syllable hanging in the air like an unanswered question in a suspenseful novel. I exhaled, trying to steady my nerves. "I don't know if I'm ready for anything serious right now," I admitted, the words feeling heavier as I said them. "But I'd like to see where this could go." Relief washed over his face, replacing the tension in his brow with a radiant smile. For the first time in a long while, I felt a flutter of genuine excitement, like the first signs of spring after a long, cold winter. Our first official date was at a cozy little restaurant tucked away on a quiet street downtown. Jid, in true fashion, went all out: flowers, candles, the works. It was sweet, almost overwhelming, as though he wanted to make sure I understood how much this moment meant to him. Over dinner, we talked about everything: our childhood dreams, our deepest fears, the lessons we'd learned from past relationships. He had this way of making me laugh until my stomach hurt. And by the end of the evening, I found myself feeling something I hadn't felt in months: pure, unfiltered happiness. As our relationship blossomed, so did the inevitable challenges. Dating someone who lived just across the hall from me was both a blessing and a curse. The convenience was undeniable: impromptu movie nights, shared dinners, and little notes left on my door in his loopy handwriting. But the proximity also left no room for boundaries. When tensions rose, there was nowhere to retreat, no buffer to create distance. One night, after a trivial argument over something as insignificant as whose turn it was to buy coffee pods, I found myself questioning whether we had rushed into this. The frustration simmered in me as I sat on my couch, staring at the blank TV screen. But just as doubt started to take root, there was a soft knock at my door. I opened it to find Jid standing there, holding my favorite dessert in one hand and an apologetic smile on his face. It was a simple gesture, but it reminded me why I had taken the leap with him in the first place, because he cared enough to fight for us, even over the small things. Over time, my feelings for Jid grew in ways I hadn't anticipated. He wasn't just my neighbor anymore. He became my confidant, my anchor, and my closest friend. One evening, as we sat on the balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, he took my hand in his and said softly, "Aisha, I've never been this sure about anything in my life. I love you." The words lingered in the air, warm and comforting. My heart swelled, and for the first time, I felt the walls I had built around myself begin to crumble. "I love you too, Jid," I replied, the sincerity in my voice matching his. Our relationship wasn't perfect, not by any means. We had our share of ups and downs, moments of miscommunication, and days when neither of us seemed to see eye to eye. But there were also days when we laughed so hard my cheeks ached, nights spent dreaming about the future, and countless little moments where his presence alone was enough to make everything feel right. Before Jid, my life had been predictable, a steady rhythm of routines and carefully constructed plans. But he taught me how to take risks, to embrace the chaos, and to dream bigger than I ever thought possible. He challenged me to step outside my comfort zone, to believe in the magic of love, and to trust someone other than myself. One crisp autumn evening, after a dinner date filled with laughter and lingering glances, Jid surprised me in the most breathtaking way. As we strolled along the park trail near my apartment, he suddenly stopped, his expression shifting from playful to serious. "I have something to ask you, Aisha," he said, his voice steady but brimming with emotion. Before I could respond, he knelt down on one knee and pulled out a small velvet box. My breath hitched as he opened it, revealing a ring that sparkled under the soft glow of the streetlights. "Aisha," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "you've changed my life in ways I never imagined possible. You make me want to be a better man every single day. Will you marry me?" Tears blurred my vision as I nodded, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, Jay. Of course, I will." As we embraced, the world around us seemed to fade away. In that moment, I realized how much this man had reshaped my life, not just with his love, but with his unwavering belief in us. Love, I've learned, has a way of sneaking up on you. It doesn't always announce itself with grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Sometimes, it starts with a simple smile from the neighbor across the hall, a smile that grows into a love story you never saw coming. Thank you for taking the time to watch our videos, and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. Our channel will always update interesting content. Thank you and see you in the next videos.